Hey guys, it's Matt. Such a nice painting, right? I'm just chilling in my group housing. Not actually in my room right now, though. I'm not in my room. I am in one of the corridors, the lobby of sorts. I was watching one of my earlier videos. I did a very light bit of reading on the theory behind the human soul. And I was watching one of my videos called Epistemology and the Unusualities of Time. They share a similarity, the article I read in the video. They discuss the philosophical tellings of the early days, the early age, that have stuck around since. I've thought of myself as having a pretty conceited view when it has come to the earlier times that I've been lived, even though I have noticed some inconsistencies, which I mentioned in that video, the video Epistemology and the Unusualities of Time. I mentioned how there are blatant unusualities and how things were versus how things are. The simplicity of living is something that I think we all value, even though some people, they do not share it so willingly. I think deep down in people's minds, we all value it. The simplicity of living, we just don't appreciate some things as well. There are always difficulties and challenges to overcome in life. The monetary elements is a fight for survival, as people can feel so distraught and broken in the sake of simply having a home or being able to afford food for their own selves or so on. It's really a game of luck, a betting game, as you either end up in a fortunate country and have a chance to find your happiness and find your comfort and find your perhaps even luxury, or you end up in a poor part of the world with less opportunities. And many times when that happens, that can be very sacrilegious disaster for the one to behold, the one that ended up there all along. There are a lot of factors to life. They are inherently your surroundings. Where you are, where you end up, who you are with. That's a huge one, who you're with. I think most of all, it's a matter of finding your independence and seeking out your own prospect, forming your future, forming your success. I think it's a matter of being the best you. But it's easy for me to say it. I am covered for by governmental law. I make my income without having to worry about making my income. But for others, it is often very different. A life filled with struggles is a commonality in this thing called life itself. And often people will seek out remedies to compensate for their lack of pleasure. Their ecstasy will be artificial. I've struggled with the same concept, regardless of having a comfortable baseline and not having too much to worry about. I have let the menacing grievances that form in me regardless, I've let them lead to me seeking out artificial pleasures in the sense of drugs. That's what I really mean. Marijuana is legal where I am, so it is a big thing to consider that, but not as big of a thing as it could be. The ease of access becomes all too significant at that point. As you know, the cannabis store is just 30 minutes away, and all it takes is a mere walk to get there. And the embodiment of who I am is perhaps seeking what I cannot attain, seeking my perfect remedy, seeking my ultimatum of happiness. Yet I'd wish for things to only be different. I want to have my pleasures be inherently natural and formed upon the basis of living life healthily and happily, regardless of the fact that I am continuously succumbing to my own distraught tendencies that form out of merely nothing, that variances in my surroundings. The hallucinated protocol is upon me. I see it daily. I always think to myself the same thing. How do I let it bother me so much? Maybe it's because they tend to be saying something to me, but it's so muted and lenient. I can't shake it. I'm making too big of a deal out of it. I tell myself it every time. Yet I nearly give up yet again. The cycle repeats. It is another day. I consider giving up and doing some marijuana yet again. I notice something. The pivotal factor of my life is the struggle that isn't there. To understand what I mean, you have to have some sort of overly honest and literal view of humanity itself. If there is no obligation, if the struggle is muted and merely perplexing instead of true antagonization that makes you struggle physically, where is the crisis? Maybe the crisis is what you make of it, which is ironic given the statement that pertains to that sentence structure. It tends to be life is what you make of it, hence the best of life is what you make of it and all that. The optimism in life is what you make of it, but really it's the crisis. The crisis is what you make of it. Because we seek out our negativity in order to form our conclusion or element of purity is distraught. It is taken away by the hostility either within ourselves or around us that just penetrates through to us. And the point becomes that you are seeking out a problem instead of forming a solution. Now, I acknowledge that plenty of people are rightfully struggling. In fact, all too many people are rightfully struggling. In a capitalistic world, it is simply impossible for things to be any other way. I get the feeling that a few mental health strugglers out there, maybe even some of them, the overstated problems. I'm one of them. You might get my point, you might not. If you are being shouted at through your ears daily and if you do not have an ounce of comfort because the trauma is too penetrative to your basis of living and your happiness suffers, I understand completely at that point. And I think that it is a tremendous shame. But for some people, they will deal with something such as obsessive compulsive disorder. And they will get their disability check or attention deficit disorder. They will get their disability check. And they will say, I'm in great pain, I'm struggling, I'm suffering. And perhaps they will deal with a challenge, a few challenges. But it shouldn't be enough to take away from the genuine comfort, the relaxed state of mind that should inherently be yours at that point. I know I'm not the one that struggles the least, so I'm just putting it out there so that you can understand where does that come from. Life is literally what you make of it. That's why I like video games and music, because they're solidified creative endeavors. Video games even let you interact with them. You can interact, you can form your own pathway, you can create your own results through video games. Music is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful art form. I think I am very touched by it. The point is that there are and will be created by people, and they build up concepts and results based on common values. If you take video games as an example, everything in a video game is something that you can have theorized and thought of in advance. The common themes revolve around things that have outlandish either could happen or did happen. And I guess what I mean is more than anything. You take something such as a zombie game, a game with zombies, The Last of Us. The Last of Us, the first one, it has to do with Joel and Ellie's interpersonal connection. As Joel takes her to the ravaged world that they're in an attempt to seek out a way to, I don't want to spoil it, but it's a way to save her and save the populace. The concept in of itself, being heartfelt for others, amicability, friendly company, emotional connections, mixed with the impending brutality of murder, the grandiose element of murder, to create a climax, to create an importance, to give a reason for them to continue, to give a mission statement. And I've really thought to myself, that is the point. Life is based upon everything we know. You cannot truly create something in a medium such as a video game that doesn't touch upon something in terms of conceptuality that hasn't been touched upon so far. You can create new ways to tackle the same topics, but you cannot actually do the former. This is because the limitations are the point. They're the simplicity and the elegance of what we have. Notice how, as my videos go on and on, it starts to feel like maybe I'm touching upon the same topics a little bit, maybe I am elaborating upon the same points just in different ways. The same points, but in different ways. This is exactly what I've been realizing about not just myself, but life itself. I think Socrates and Plato, and I need to learn about more of the early philosophical geniuses, but their names do not stick to my mind. I think they're a genius for conveying such a depthful hope and philosophical nuance in life. Of course, by doing that, they're reaching for the abstract and the spiritual basis. I think that is brilliant. I think that is really brilliant that they're able to do that at all. Never mind so thoroughly and completely. I'm sure they would have said themselves that there was still a lot left to do, there was still a lot left to tackle, they did not cover it all. And the inside of their lives and the amount of information they shared and so on, it did not matter, they still did not cover it all. Evidently an indicator of massive debt within the human potential, the potential of humanity. Not really a counter-argument, but just a point to be made about it, though, is maybe that debt is based upon the imagination. To convey in such meticulous and grandiose ways would also be to fill in the blanks. To speak of what is not blatantly there. is a whole other realm of possibilities. Now, these exist as concepts. They exist as concepts. They do. But a lot of what they've spoken of does not actually exist in physical form. There are spiritual hopes and dreams. And I think that if you simplify life to its most common basis, it is all about how your day goes. Really. It's simply about the survival of your own self. Everything on top of that is just to entertain our own selves. It is about eating, drinking. It is about sleeping. It is about contributing, working. And everything else is just an extension of our need to satiate or curiosity or intellectual purpose. It is the point, is that we need to do that. So therefore we come up with these beautiful and abstract concepts and ideologies and pertinent ideas that form some sort of depthful intellectuality. But I cannot help but see the truth for what it really is. It's a big thing called the truth, I acknowledge that. When something happens in front of you, or when you learn about something that is destructive or remedial, those are two huge elements as to what can then create a discourse. When you learn about something that is, or you see something that is interesting or different, those are also elements that can lead to a discourse. Maybe the point is that, yes, it is what we make of it life. And yes, it is based upon concepts that can be imagined and that have been spoken and that exists. Because what else could it be? I'm sure it could probably be more things, but for us in particular, I don't know about it. I really don't know. The soul is something I read about, how it exists in or imperfect state, and yet it coexists, it is harmonious, harmonic with or divine state, the perfection in us. The perfectionism would be the intellectual measure, the grandiose finishing line that has been crossed. The end goal. To truly have a harmonious and peaceful and Samaritan species that exists within the basis of perfection, within its literacy and its divine intelligence. I don't know how many of us you could really have. I know that's fairly conceited. And I'm not one who usually tends to judge. I can tell you that, and still tell you Some people are not too driven by philosophical measures nor intelligent and depthful rationales. But I can tell you as well that those people can still be intelligent. They just do not seek out the finesse in the philosophy. Those people can still contribute to society. In fact, plenty of those people could be contributing to society a lot more than me in every way. Do you understand the point? Let me tell you what the point is. We are all individual. We are all different. We are all bound to have differences. If we are to truly live in harmony, then we operate differently. And maybe that is the point that they would be making us philosophers. If we are to exist in harmony, then we operate differently. And maybe that is the point of the soul within us that exists in its limited basis of operation, while the transcendence surpasses us and exists in its infinite knowledge and theory. Maybe that is the point of that. And if that is the case, well, I hope I get given a chance. I hope I'm given a chance to be the same way. All in all, life is what you make of it. Life is a series of results that breed upon expectations. Life is to sugarcoat. It's the point of depthful potence. Life is the reward that comes from the journey. The reward is what you make of life. And most of all, life is simply lived. There doesn't have to be any deeper meaning to it than that. For some people, there is no deeper meaning to it than that. These are theories, ideas that I have flirted with and thought of for a long time. This inevitability, this thought I cannot shake that told me that the depth and nuance to living is created very thoroughly, yet exists within its simplicity regardless. We just seek out more meaning out of it. It is to give us purpose. It is to differentiate us from others. And while it is a very significant idea to put out there, the idea that depth is limited and it's simplified, while it is even contradictory to a degree. I hope you can understand where I'm coming from with that point. Because I think that in a certain way, there is no true depth. There is only living. I just recognize the irony as well. And speaking non-stop in recording so many vlogs, I speak non-stop and in saying this. But I do believe it to be the truth. Thank you, and be well to all of you.